you really should learn as much as possible about that industry and how it works.
Welcome back to another episode of the Matterpod. Today we are joined by Rudy. We're really excited to talk to him about all things Matterport related and get some insights from him. So, John, I know this is a busy time of year for you, so thank you so much for taking the time to hop on and chat with us. We're really looking forward to it.
No problem. Good to be here.
John, one of the things that you and I were chatting with about before starting this podcast episode was the RCE group. The reason that John and I actually got connected was through the RCE group in general. And so I'm sure there's a lot of our listeners that aren't super familiar with what RCE is. And so, like, if you wouldn't mind taking just a minute to maybe explain how you got linked up with RCE, talk a little bit about what it is and maybe why a Matterport provider would be interested in joining the RCE group.
Well, the RCE, which stands for Reality Capture Experts, and again, I'm not an officer with the company at all. I'm just a member. It's a collection of people in this industry, mainly, I believe, Matterport, but doing into other things. There's realtors, there's drone operators, but it's basically a virtual tour, basically a group. I was invited in by another member. Which is, again, I don't want to speak for them, but I believe that's how it's usually done.
Gotcha. So it is invite only. Like, you got to find somebody to invite you in.
Yes, I believe it is. And again, I could be mistaken. I don't want to speak for them too much. But it's a great group that is very helpful to each other. We've done some very good things working together. My company included. We worked with them on some excellent projects. Brought in some good clients to work with, and have gotten a plethora of information about the industry. It's basically professionals that are looking to help each other. So I can't really say enough about it. Very good things, and it's I feel very fortunate to be a part of it.
I love that. That's really the purpose of the Matterpod, our podcast. We really just want to help Matterport providers all over the world glean insights and information from each other. And it sounds to me like that's similar to what the purpose is of the RCE group, to come collaborate together, talk about new products in the industry, what's working, help each other answer questions. And so I think that's
another good thing real quick about RCE is it's also we did referrals. And since we're a global network, I don't have anybody in California that does tours, but I've had people come to me saying, do you have somebody in this area? And so therefore you go in, you find the people. Everybody has been vetted, so you can feel confident in that the RCE network is, those professionals are going to do a good job for you and for your client. And it allows small businesses to operate on a much larger location scale.
Totally. I agree with you 100%. I think there's a lot of people that just don't know where to go when they have questions, and there are various Facebook groups and other things like that where people turn to answer questions. But I think that from what I've seen, the RCE group is one of the best resources or one of the best places that you could be active in to get help with all things virtual tour related. Like you said, not just Matterport. I've attended a couple RCE meetings myself, and I know that there's a lot of people in the group that are experts in a lot of things in addition to just Matterport. Like you said, drone operators, etc. So
in this industry, there's so many other services that can be offered. And it's one of the phrases now is XR, if you've heard, extended reality, as opposed to VR, virtual reality. So there's a lot of other things that are possible. And again, to have a group of people that can keep track on the industry is great.
Totally. I don't know a lot about a lot of the other stuff. I've spent the majority of my time in the Matterport silo, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember on one of the RCE calls I was on, people were comparing the point cloud and the BIM files from a BLK camera to the Matterport Pro 3. And I remember whoever it was that was talking was speaking a foreign language to me, essentially talking about the differences in the details. And so, really, if you're looking to get involved on a more sophisticated architecture type level where you're doing, remodels and point cloud files for, architecture type clients, like the RCE group again can be a great resource for really a lot of things outside of Matterport as well. So, John, if people have questions about the RCE group, is it okay if they reach out to you and ask you? Are
I'm
you
not the person to speak to about RCA.
okay?
You want to
Who
go
would be who
to
would be a good person to reach out to if they've got questions?
Dustin Gardner, Sherry Rennick. Let me get you the Reality Capture Experts is the name of it.
Reality
Like I
capture
said,
experts.
I'm just a member.
Okay.
So if you went to realitycaptureexperts.com, they'll have more information there.
Cool.
Like I said, I'm just
Cool.
someone who's lucky to be there. I'll give it to you that way.
That's perfect.
But yeah, Dustin is I believe one of the main spokespeople there.
Awesome. And I've personally chatted with Dustin as well. He's very, very helpful. So that's a great resource. Go ahead and head to realitycaptureexperts.com and they'll be able to answer any questions that you've got. But
Dustin Gardner and
like
Sherry Rennick. I want to make sure I said her name correctly. Sherry Rennick. Those are the two
cool.
principals there of any questions with RCA.
Awesome. Well, John, kind of shifting gears a little bit, I'd love to chat with you a little bit about what you're focused on currently, some of the clients that you are working with, and maybe hear a little bit about some of the services that you're currently providing them. I know there's a lot of different reality or there's a lot of different virtual tour providers that are working for all different types of clients, but I'd love to hear kind of where your head is at, where your current focus is.
Well, I started doing virtual tours. Oh my God, say 2004, 2005, using 3D.
No way, long time
Long
ago.
time ago, using 3D Vista software, and that was basically just moving the camera and clicking and creating a 300. There was a bunch of different solutions back then too, and basically just moving the camera at different intervals and clicking, and then using software to stitch it together. And we had some pretty good success with that. Mainly real estate, but we actually had done some work for hospitals and so on, and some commercial work. When the real estate market had its ups and downs, it kind of really wasn't one of the things we focused on anymore. Everything changed when Matterport came onto the scene. I got into Matterport about 2017, I believe. So like a lot of other people, the question is, do you want to take the risk on, putting out that kind of investment? I have a web design company as well, and my experience was when you have these extra services, such as virtual tours, it brings in more web work. It brings in more consulting work, and which it had. And so we got into Matterport, did a lot of apartment buildings. And I work with corporate housing in New York City and a lot of apartment complexes here in New Jersey, Pennsylvania. And everything changed when COVID hit. All of a sudden, the phone was ringing off the hook with very, very large companies all needing virtual tours for their apartments. One of my clients pre-COVID, and they're still a client, asked me, can we put furniture in these vacant units? Is there any way to virtually stage these things? And at the time, there was only one company that they were still in beta at the time, and they had the lock on it. They were the only ones licensed by Matterport. As you know,
which one was it? Was it Captured?
No, they didn't come until later. No, it was Rumi.
Rumi. Okay, I've never.
Rumi was the first one, and I remember going to into New York City for the day at a real estate conference. It was Inman Connect, right in Midtown Manhattan. I still remember it was about 2 degrees that day, and talking to one of their representatives about getting my client into their beta program, and they eventually were accepted. They had, there was some kind of stipulations. As a Matterport provider, I was not entitled to any commission in any way, shape, or form. And not only that, I actually had to, or my client had to have their own account. They couldn't stay under my account anymore. So lost a ton of money on hosting there. So, but they actually did get into the program. It actually worked out very well. They were extremely happy with it. And when COVID hit, they were miles ahead of everybody else. And I also had, I was very familiar at that point of how the system worked with virtual staging. Captured and a couple of the other companies talked about bringing in virtual staging, but they do it in a different way. But as the industry moved on, as you know, so many third-party applications came out. I mean, it was just, there was always something, and there still is always something new. Some are worth it, some aren't. Now with the release of the ability to import and export panos from the Matterport environment, a lot of companies are doing virtual staging themselves. So it's completely opened up. So I have a background with, like I said, with real estate, and as far as a lot of apartment buildings.
Gotcha.
And now we're looking into doing more and more commercial work, not just commercial real estate, but as you know, retail establishments and things along those lines.
Have you had success getting in with other customer types outside of the real estate market, or has it been kind of difficult to demonstrate or educate them on the value proposition of why they should consider doing virtual tour related stuff?
Well, it's I've been very fortunate that I've been kind of on the busy side, and I have to admit that I haven't done a tremendous amount of a push on marketing. It's almost like, as soon as I get time, I'll start looking out. It seems like they find me, to be perfectly honest. Like I said, I'm 45 minutes outside New York City. So, between New York and New Jersey, it really, there's a lot here. And we handle everything from, like I said, stores to, we do corporate charter boats, where people have, their corporate events, or sometimes their weddings, things like that. I did a nursing home the other day. So it really is, there's a lot there. And, you also want to sort of figure out where you're going to have the best return on investment of your time.
Totally. No, I agree.
So it's, like I said, some projects don't take very long, as opposed to other projects. However, how much time is it taking you to procure that client? We work with some realtors now that are actually paying us to do Matterports of local businesses. And
Interesting.
Then that's being handed off to social media consultants that they are now integrating themselves in the community, especially a new business. So it's kind of a win-win for everybody. So like I said, it really is sort of a, I used to say that all you had to do was show it to them, the Matterport, and either they're going to want it or they're not. Now it seems that as more and more, you want to tell them how it's going to benefit them. Mm-hmm. How they can use it. Having the toy, it's like, okay, this is cute. We don't really need it. And I have actually had apartment companies say that to me pre-COVID. They said, I did a model once I did it for free, model apartment, right in Midtown Manhattan, New York City, 53rd Street, huge building. And they looked at it. They had a conference about a meeting about it, and they said, okay, this is great. It's cool. We don't really need it, and we're not really gonna put forth the investment 5 months later, how soon can you be here? We have 7 other buildings.
It's so funny how it works.
It's that's actually, I think, the largest apartment building I handle in New York. And so, like I said, if they see the value in it, and I think that's where your product comes in, especially in the retail market, is how to enhance the shopping experience. It's one thing to see a bunch of products on a website, but if a client wants to, or a business wants to push the the look and the feel of their store, and get people even to come in person, then it can be very valuable.
Yeah, 100%. I think my opinion on this, from what I've seen so far, is I would guess that just the way that there was kind of a lag, like you described, when you created this free model, gave it to the apartment complex or whatever real estate company it was you were working with, and like, this is cool, but we don't need it. And then, months later, they come back to you and are like, hey, how soon can you be here? I think that we're still, from what I've seen and what I've heard, which we ourselves are talking to, we're Matterport providers ourselves, and we're talking to companies and trying to get them to create custom branded virtual tours outside of the real estate space. And I think we're still kind of in the phase of, you show it to them and it's kind of a cool thing that piques their interest, but they're not to a point where they see it as this is a must-have. And so we get a lot of people that say, cool, but no thanks. And so it'll be interesting to see if, as time goes on, and like you mentioned, XR kind of continues to improve, 3D content in general becomes more mainstream with the adoption of Oculus, with Apple that's supposedly going to announce their AR, VR hardware this spring. As these 3D content viewing mediums become more and more important and more widely adopted, it's going to be interesting to see the need and the demand for these 3D virtual tour experiences outside of the real estate industry. But like I said, that's just me forecasting. That's just my opinion based on what I've seen and the people that I've talked to so far.
Yeah, it's the thing is, that's why I never want to say VR, because then people always have the impression of the goggles and the whole 9 yards.
The huge goggles, yeah.
And I've even spoken to some of the apartment companies a while back, before COVID, saying, if you had branded goggles that you could, the cardboard ones you put your phone in and this and that, or you could, if you gave some, and the reason they wanted this is because if people come in to see an apartment and it's occupied, it's not available yet, that's where the tour comes into play. And
right.
So I said, if you'd have to put them in a chair and kind of, if you wanted to use the goggles, as opposed to just having a big screen where you can walk them around on a TV set, which is much better. So they actually said, as far as the goggles go, that's great until somebody gets pink eye. At which case, that's going to come to a grinding halt. So it's so when it comes to the goggles, like I said, it's and my girlfriend's son plays games, constantly on those things, and he loves it. But it's as far as using it in on a widespread as a widespread solution, I think that's going to take some time.
I agree. I think that the hardware will have to catch up with the software, meaning right now, the only way to, you can view a Matterport tour in a VR headset, but I don't think there's that many people out there that are using it for that application. I would say the majority of people are digesting the 3D tours on their phone and on their computers. And I think
there's no reason to put those things on.
I think that as the medium or the hardware or device, as those improve and make it so that it's easier and a better experience to digest a 3D tour, I think you'll see a demand in the need and use applications of that content type is going to go up. But, we don't know how long or how far away we are from getting to that point. But I know, the biggest companies in the world, Facebook and Apple, are dumping literally billions of dollars into creating hardware devices that are focused on digesting these 3D content types. And so it's going to be interesting to see what they come up with.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting
So,
stuff. It's an exciting industry to be in. It really is. It's
yes.
So yeah, it's I'm lucky I got in when I did. I really feel fortunate.
For sure, and it sounds like you've been busy and had a lot going on, which is for sure a blessing and a good problem to have on your hands.
Be careful what you wish for.
Hey, if you do the right things and you position yourself in the right way, there's definitely a way to stay busy and make a good living doing what you're doing, creating virtual tours for various clients and customer types. So
absolutely, and
John,
that's one of the things that people should think about is which industries do you want to go after, and like
right,
I even from my own missteps of where you want to focus. In other words, do you want to focus on just this, or these industries? And if you're gonna get into architecture and things like that, you really should learn as much as possible about that industry and how it works, and the CAD files and the BIM and all that stuff, and to really have an understanding of how it's going to be used as opposed to just scamming.
Most definitely.
Yeah, so it's and again, the more you can speak about it, the better you're going to be.
Yeah, I think that's super sound advice. Sometimes, especially when you're getting started, I think it's a great idea to kind of find your niche, if you will. Don't try and be all things to all people, and really go after a certain customer segment, kind of get some solid traction with that customer type, and then kind of step back and reassess from there. But I know that we ourselves personally have found ourselves getting distracted because we see so much opportunity with creating these virtual tours that we've tried to go after a lot of different customer types, and I think we would have been much better off had we just from the onset really stayed in one lane and tried to nail one customer type and get really solid traction with them. So I think there's a lot of wisdom in what you just said, for sure.
Yeah, and again, different industries are going to be different. We're getting in with an architecture company is not going to be as tough. It's not going to be as easy as getting in with your local showroom.
Right.
That kind of thing. So it really is. Depending on what kind of marketing you want to do and how your sales team or your marketing team is going to be able to get your foot in the door in some of these places. Like I said, I got very, very lucky. In my area, a lot of these companies work together, so my name was moved around a lot.
Yes. Well, John, we really appreciate you taking the time to hop on. If people want to get a hold of you and ask you any questions about anything, you're a veteran in the space since 2004. What is the best way for people to get in contact with you?
They can email me at jrudy, JRUDY, at upperwebside.com, UPPERWEB as in boy, SID as in David, E.com. That's probably the best way to get in touch with me.
Perfect. John, thank you so much for your time, and we wish you the best of luck with everything in the New York, New Jersey area. So we'll be in touch.
Thank you.